The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with tension. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy stood locked in argument, their eyes fixated on a single holographic image floating in the center of the room, a towering figure, regal yet terrifying, the last of the Ilithians. The debate wasn't about mercy or justice. It was about survival. The Ilithians have always been a threat, one council member growled. Do we really want to risk another resurgence? We've seen what they can do. One queen is enough to rebuild an army, a fleet, an empire. Another representative, a smaller creature with a nervous twitch, chimed in. They multiply fast. Too fast. We cannot allow her to live. We must protect the galaxy from the Ilithian scourge. It was settled. The queen, the sole survivor of her species, was deemed too dangerous. No trial, no appeals. A decision made in fear. They couldn't risk her staying alive, not with her species' potential for domination. Orders were given for a covert operation to dispose of her quietly, away from prying eyes. No one was to know where she was taken, only that she was gone. On a cold, forgotten planet in the far reaches of the galaxy, the Ilithian queen was abandoned. The landscape was brutal, nothing but vast, toxic fields of sand, constant storms, and jagged rocks that cut the horizon. There was no food, no water, no shelter. It was a perfect graveyard. The queen, weakened from months of imprisonment, stumbled through the wasteland. Each step felt like a battle against the crushing weight of isolation. She had fought for her people, for her empire. But it was all gone now. Her once mighty fleet, her armies, reduced to myths and fearful whispers. Now, she was just an insect on a dying world, sentenced to rot. She collapsed under the weight of her despair, her exoskeleton covered in dust, her once shining eyes dimmed. Memories of her people haunted her soldiers, her children, all wiped out because they had been too strong, too powerful for the galaxy's comfort. What crime had she committed? Was it wrong to protect her people, to ensure their survival? The galaxy had called her kind monsters, but it was the Council that had orchestrated their extermination. Alone, with only the howling winds for company, she could feel her body weakening further. The galaxy had succeeded in erasing the Ilithians. There was no one left to remember them, no one to tell their story. She would die here, nameless, forgotten, and her species with her. But the galaxy wasn't mourning. In the grand halls of the Galactic Union, there was celebration. The threat was gone, or so they believed. The Ilithians, once feared across the stars, were now nothing more than a cautionary tale told to children. Stories of their brutal efficiency, their overwhelming strength, were shared with a sense of finality. The galaxy could breathe again, no longer fearing the shadow of the insectoid empire. The Union's plan had worked. No one questioned the sudden disappearance of the Queen. No one cared where she had gone, only that she was gone. The universe had moved on, indifferent to the suffering of one, even if that one had once commanded entire fleets. Yet, as the galaxy celebrated, far away on the edge of known space, an unassuming human ship passed through a desolate sector. Its crew, a team of explorers, scanned the horizon for anything unusual. The captain, bored from weeks of uneventful travel, barely registered the faint energy signature on his monitor. "Strange," he muttered. "This system is supposed to be empty." It was weak, almost imperceptible, but it was there, a flicker of life on the forsaken planet. Curiosity sparked in the captain's mind. Against the advice of his first officer, he adjusted their course. "Let's take a look." The ship cut through the atmosphere, rattling as it descended toward the desolate surface. The crew of human explorers had grown used to quiet sectors of space, places no one cared about, but something about this planet was different. The faint signal had caught their attention, barely detectable but enough to pique their curiosity. In a galaxy full of mysteries, humans had a reputation for not leaving stones unturned. The captain, a man of quiet resolve, studied the planet's barren expanse on his monitor. There was nothing alive out there, no civilization, no signs of life, yet the readings persisted. He wasn't one to ignore the unknown. "Prep for landing," he ordered. His crew exchanged glances, some apprehensive, others eager. They were explorers, after all. This was what they lived for, the strange, the unexplained. As the ship touched down, the outside world greeted them with vicious winds and toxic storms. The planet was unforgiving, a place where nothing should survive. They disembarked cautiously, their boots sinking into the shifting sand, their eyes scanning the hostile terrain. It didn't take long before they noticed something out of place. Scattered across the ground were fragments of a structure, half buried and eroded by time. The remnants seemed unnatural, as though something, or someone, had been here long ago. The captain knelt, brushing dust off a piece of metal. "This isn't from any known civilization," he murmured. The signal they'd detected was faint but growing stronger as they moved deeper into the wasteland. His instincts told him there was more to this planet than it seemed. They continued, the wind whipping at their suits, visibility poor. Then, through the storm, they saw it, a figure, collapsed in the distance. It was barely visible, half covered by sand, but unmistakably alive. The crew hurried forward, their hearts pounding. As they got closer, they realized what they were seeing, a creature, insectoid in nature, large and majestic even in its weakened state. The captain hesitated for a moment, recognition dawning on him. He had heard the stories, the last of the Ilithians. This had to be her, the queen who had supposedly disappeared from history. But what was she doing here, on this forgotten world? His mind raced as he signaled his crew to approach cautiously. This was no ordinary alien. This was a being once feared across the galaxy. As they drew closer, the queen stirred. Her eyes, dim and glazed over, flickered with a sudden awareness. Her body, though weakened, tensed as she recognized the humans. Her mandibles twitched, and she let out a low growl, her body rising in a defensive posture. To her, they were just more enemies, here to finish the job the Galactic Union had started. She had nothing left to lose. The captain raised his hand, signaling his crew to stop. He could see the fear and anger in her eyes, the desperation of a creature who had been abandoned by the universe. "We're not here to hurt you," he said calmly. His voice was steady, gentle, but firm. "We're here to help." The queen's hostility didn't fade, but there was a pause. The captain didn't look away, didn't flinch under her threatening gaze. He wasn't here to fight. He wasn't like the others who had condemned her. Slowly, he knelt, lowering himself to her level, showing her he wasn't a threat. His crew watched in silence, unsure of what would happen next. The queen, still wary, studied them. These humans were different. They weren't armed, and they didn't move with the arrogance or fear she was used to from other species. For a moment, she hesitated, her body swaying from exhaustion. The captain took a chance. "Let us help you," he repeated, his tone unyielding. "We don't care what the galaxy says. We know you're not the monster they think you are." Something in his words reached her. Maybe it was the sincerity in his voice, the compassion she had never seen from other species. Or maybe it was simply that she had no other choice. Her body trembled as her defensive stance weakened, her legs buckling beneath her. The humans caught her before she collapsed. The crew worked quickly, their medical supplies limited but effective. They stabilized her, bringing her aboard the ship. The queen, barely conscious, was placed in their medbay, her breathing shallow but steady. The captain watched over her, his mind racing with questions. Why had the Galactic Union abandoned her here? What were they hiding? The crew debated contacting the Union, but the captain made the decision for them. "No," he said firmly. "Something about this isn't right. If they wanted her dead, there's more to this story." The others nodded in agreement. Humans had always been suspicious of the Union's politics, and this felt like a cover-up. As the Queen began to recover, she spoke little, but her presence alone was a reminder of what she had once been, a ruler of a mighty empire, now reduced to a refugee. The captain saw through her silence, recognizing the weight she carried. He wasn't interested in the galaxy's fear of her. He saw a being in need, and that was enough. The ship's course remained set on the edge of space, far from prying eyes. The crew knew they had crossed a line by helping her, but they didn't care. The captain, looking out into the vastness of space, understood the risks. But he also knew that they couldn't let her die here, not like this. The Queen, recovering slowly, watched the humans with a cautious curiosity. They were unlike any species she had encountered. They didn't fear her, didn't view her as a weapon. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she wasn't just the last Ilithian. She was something more. But even as the ship floated through the stars, the captain couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. The Galactic Union wouldn't stay quiet for long. The days passed, and the Queen's health steadily improved. The humans took turns tending to her, ensuring she received proper care. They weren't just patching her wounds, they were showing her a side of the galaxy she had never known. Every act of kindness, every small gesture, slowly chipped away at the walls she had built around herself. It was strange to her, this human empathy. It wasn't something she had encountered in the cold, calculating politics of the galaxy. At first, the Queen remained guarded, her silence thick with suspicion. But as she watched the humans work, how they spoke to each other, how they treated even the smallest problems with care, she began to understand. They were different. They didn't view her as a potential weapon, nor as a threat to be eliminated. They saw her as someone worth saving, even though it didn't benefit them in any obvious way. One evening, as the ship drifted through the quiet of space, the captain sat beside her, sharing stories of Earth. He spoke of humanity's turbulent past, their struggles for survival, their wars, and how they had emerged stronger. "We've faced impossible odds before," he told her, his voice calm but determined. "But we always find a way through. It's not just about surviving, it's about helping others survive, too." The Queen listened intently, her once icy exterior thawing in the warmth of their words. She had seen other species fight for power, fight to dominate, but never had she encountered a race that fought for each other the way humans did. In a galaxy filled with selfishness and betrayal, humans seemed to value something deeper, the individual, the connection between beings. It resonated with her in a way she hadn't expected. One day, she finally spoke of her past, her voice low and heavy with regret. She told them about the fall of the Ilithians. The galaxy had branded them as conquerors, an aggressive race seeking domination. But it wasn't true. "We were not the monsters they made us out to be," she began. Her eyes, now brighter, looked at the humans with a new kind of vulnerability. "The Galactic Union feared our potential, not our actions." She explained how the Union had spread rumors, twisting the truth. Her people had been prosperous, yes, but they had never intended to wage war on the galaxy. The Ilithians' ability to multiply and expand quickly was seen as a threat to the balance of power. The Union had orchestrated their downfall, painting the Ilithians as villains to justify their extermination. "We were framed," she said softly. "And I was the last piece of their plan. They couldn't allow me to live, not if they wanted to keep control." The humans listened, their expressions serious. They had suspected something like this. There was always more to the story than what the Union allowed the galaxy to see. The captain looked at her with a renewed sense of purpose. "You didn't deserve this," he said firmly. "They feared you because they couldn't control you. But that doesn't make you the monster they claimed you were." The Queen's voice trembled slightly, something that surprised even her. "I wanted peace," she admitted. "I wanted my people to thrive, but not through war. We were painted as conquerors, but all we wanted was survival." The humans' belief in her grew stronger. They had seen too many injustices in their travels, too many powerful entities shaping narratives for their own gain. This wasn't the first time someone had been wrongfully vilified. The crew shared knowing looks. This wasn't just about saving the Queen anymore. This was about revealing the truth. Together, they began to plan. The Queen, once resigned to her fate, now had hope. She wouldn't let her people's memory be tainted by lies. "We can't change what's happened," she said, her voice gaining strength. "But we can change what comes next." Inspired by humanity's unwavering compassion and their refusal to accept injustice, she vowed to rebuild her race. But this time, it would be different. I won't let the galaxy fear us, she declared. We will be a peaceful race, a matriarchy that focuses on unity, not domination. That's how we will honor those we've lost. The humans agreed to help her. They knew the risks, but it didn't matter. The truth had to come out. They would confront the Galactic Union with what they had learned, expose the lies, and force the galaxy to see the Queen for who she truly was. The captain, his resolve unshaken, laid out their course. We'll head to a neutral sector, he said. Somewhere we can gather evidence, allies. If we play this right, we can change the narrative. The Queen's eyes gleamed with determination. She had been abandoned, left for dead, but now she had allies, humans who saw her not as a threat but as a being worthy of redemption. For the first time in years, she felt something she had thought lost forever: hope. But just as they began to set their plan in motion, the captain's console lit up with a warning. Their ship had been detected. The Galactic Union had picked up on their movements, and now they were coming to finish what they had started. Ships were already en route, and this time, there would be no room for escape. The Galactic Union ships closed in fast, their presence announced by the flashing alarms on the human crew's console. Despite the odds stacked against them, the humans remained calm, quickly assessing their limited options. They knew a direct fight wasn't winnable, outnumbered and outgunned, brute force wasn't on the table. But humans had never relied on sheer strength alone. It was their ingenuity, their ability to adapt under pressure, that had kept them alive in the most dangerous corners of the galaxy. The captain ordered evasive maneuvers, using the planet's turbulent atmosphere as cover. Storms raged outside, providing a natural shield, but they couldn't hide forever. While dodging enemy fire, the crew transmitted a data package, the evidence of the Union's manipulation and the Queen's true intentions. They sent it across galactic communication networks, hitting every corner of the galaxy in one massive broadcast. It was risky, but they had no choice. If they didn't expose the truth now, the Union would wipe them out, along with the last hope for the Ilithians. As the Union ships pressed closer, the humans fought back with everything they had, employing guerrilla tactics. They used their ships' superior maneuverability, staying just out of reach of the larger Union vessels. The goal wasn't to win the battle but to buy time. Time for the message to spread, time for the galaxy to wake up to the truth. Their efforts weren't in vain. Soon, communications from across the galaxy started flooding in. Planets that had long been under the Union's control were beginning to question the official narrative. People were demanding answers, and the Union's stranglehold on the galaxy started to loosen. Inside the human ship, the Queen stood tall, her strength fully restored. She watched as the Union forces tightened their grip, but instead of fear, she felt resolve. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving to the galaxy that her race was not the monster the Union had made it out to be. She approached the captain, her eyes gleaming with determination. "It's time," she said. The captain nodded, trusting her completely. The Queen accessed her people's ancient technology, a knowledge that the Union had grossly underestimated. In mere moments, she took control of the battlefield, disabling the Union's flagship with a wave of her hand, rendering their weapons useless. But she didn't destroy them. Instead, she left the crew intact, showing that her intentions were no longer about domination or revenge, but about peace. The Union's forces hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Their most powerful weapon had been neutralized, and their lives were unraveling before them. The Queen, now radiating the authority of a true leader, opened a broadcast to the entire galaxy. She spoke calmly, her voice carrying both strength and compassion. "I am not the threat they told you I was. My people were never your enemies. We were scapegoats, used to instill fear and maintain control. But today that ends." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "Ilithians were once a proud race, but we were never conquerors. We sought to live, to grow, as all species do. The Galactic Union feared what they could not control, so they destroyed us. But thanks to these humans, I stand before you now, not as a conqueror, but as a symbol of what is possible when we choose unity over division." Her gaze softened as she spoke of the humans who had saved her life. Humans, the so-called young race, have shown me compassion when no one else would. They have demonstrated that strength does not lie in power or fear, but in empathy, understanding, and the courage to do what is right. They saved me when the galaxy turned its back." Her declaration rippled across the galaxy. On distant worlds, where people had believed the Union's lies for generations, there was now a new hope. The idea of peace, of rebuilding rather than destroying, began to take hold. And the Queen, once abandoned to die, became a beacon of that hope. Back on the human ship, the crew watched the broadcast unfold. They knew the fight wasn't over. The Union would not give up control easily. But they had won the first and most crucial battle, the battle for truth. The Union ships retreated, their leaders scrambling to handle the public outcry. Their power was waning, and the galaxy's trust in them was shattered. The humans, though weary, were victorious in ways they hadn't anticipated. They had done more than just survive, they had changed the fate of an entire species and perhaps the galaxy itself. As the humans prepared to return to Earth, the Queen thanked them, her voice filled with gratitude. "You have given me more than my life," she said. "You have given my people a future." The captain smiled, knowing that their mission had succeeded in more ways than one. "That's what we do," he replied. "We don't leave anyone behind." With that, the humans set their course for home, heroes not only in the eyes of the Ilithians but to countless others across the galaxy who had been inspired by their courage and compassion. The Queen, now a symbol of peace, began the long process of rebuilding her empire. But this time, her vision was clear: she would lead a peaceful matriarchy, one that sought harmony with the rest of the galaxy. And humanity, with all its flaws and strengths, would be her closest ally. In the end, the galaxy was left forever changed. The humans, with their ingenuity and moral conviction, had proved once again that their greatest power wasn't in their technology or their military might, but in their unwavering belief in the value of life and unity.